you know that humans are the only mammals who have boobies all life long, from puberty until death do them part, or until mastectomy do them part? Every other mammal has boobies whilst they're breastfeeding, and then they go and go right back inside them. So I want to figure out why, and I have taken my survey to the streets, and the results are in. To make a music instrument when running up the stairs with no bra on. So when I say I took it to the streets, I mean I took it to WhatsApp for my friends and family. Some answers not as serious as others, but I actually think that person was being serious with her answer. So it's a small scale study, friends, family, my local breast reconstruction group and my salon, but I had about 60 responses, so pretty good. The main reason that we have breasts is for breastfeeding. That is an absolute no-brainer. Everybody said that, apart from this one person. I'm not going to give away any names, but it was definitely a man, and I really hope they are watching. I don't think they listened in biology at school, so they just had no idea whatsoever. But other than that person, everybody said breastfeeding. We all know that. Breast is best, it's good for bonding with the baby. It releases that love drug, oxytocin, always good to breastfeed baby. But it's not essential. Babies can survive without breast milk. You can still attach and bond with your baby without breastfeeding. Men attach and bond with babies, and they definitely don't breastfeed. Interestingly, even though breasts are for breastfeeding babies, the whole purpose of them, we still have to have a law in the UK to stop discriminating against breasts doing what breasts do best. Now, a lot of my friends are currently breastfeeding. Some of them couldn't even see past that. Breastfeeding, breastfeeding, breastfeeding. Just number one, breastfeeding. Growing a bambino, and I got stuck there. And I totally appreciate that loads and loads of people's relationship with their boobs change over time, and their views on their boobs change over time. A lot of my breastfeeding friends said, if you asked me this 5 years ago, I would have had a very different response. So it's all about breastfeeding. Wrong. If it was all about breastfeeding, then we would be like every other mammal where it gets sucked back inside. Why are we left with these big lumpy bits of fat on our chest for our whole lives? And also, what about women who don't breastfeed? Women who don't have children, women who have finished breastfeeding? What is the point in their boobs? Now, there is a theory by Desmond Morris. He ruffled a few feathers when he wrote the book, The Naked Ape. I've got a little image to help everybody out with this. His theory is that as we evolved, so say that ape at the bottom there, that ape is looking at another ape's butt. That's how it's telling whether it's sexy or not, what gender it might be, whether it fancies it, whether it wants to have babies with it. As we evolved, our eyesight got higher and higher and higher. So we became vertical. And then the eyesight is looking at the chest. So Mr. Desmond Morris thinks that our boobs are replicas of a butt. So we've basically got butts on our chests to attract the opposite sex. Now my question here is that if that was the case, why haven't we got boobs on our forehead? Because really that's where we're looking, isn't it? That's our eyesight, our eye line. So technically we should be walking around with booby heads, but we're not. Another thing around evolution is that somebody who wants to mate with us might look at the size of our boobs, and if we have really big boobs, that's an indication that we might be able to raise or nurture the child better. Complete lie. There is absolutely no correlation between the size of a woman's boobs and the ability to breastfeed. If you don't believe in evolution, totally fine. If you believe that God made Eve on the 6th day, I cannot ask God for his answer, but one of my friends did fancy themselves as a bit of theologist, and their answer is, well, God had some left over. Obviously, everybody knows this. So we either evolved to have buttock chests, or God just had some left over and he gave it to us. Another theory, peacocking. This is such a good term, I love it. I hadn't actually heard of it before. But I think that's really what Morris was trying to say. It's peacocking. That's what the male peacocks do to attract a mate. They get out their feathers and they like go shoo, shoo, shoo. Interestingly, quite a lot of the animals that do that in the animal kingdom are the men. So it's the men flaunting their stuff, getting their feathers out, getting their little, that lizard on David Attenborough the other day, getting his neck out and flapping it about. But that's the idea, it's to attract a mate. So us girls with low cut tops and go dancing at the bar, we try and get served quicker by getting our boobs out at the bar. Not me. I would never ever do that, but I know some people who would. But not just about attracting another mate, also it's about how we feel about ourselves. So it's a huge, huge part about identity. So many people said this. It's about feeling sexy, it's about looking good, it's about having stuff to fill your bra, even if that is tissues. And a lot of people said it's something that makes us different from a man. So that's something you can tell visibly, which makes you different from a man. So it's all about beauty, being sexy. Now, I did get a few quite strange answers, but everyone, each to their own, each to their own. We have got holding drinks. Quite a few guys said holding drinks. Now, I have an ample chest, but there is no way that I can hold a drink in there. I would get a whole pint spilled all down me if I tried to hold a drink in there. Maybe a hip flask. That is definitely something I have done, taken a little hip flask in my bra into a club, but generally not the safest place to hold a drink. Storing things, definitely. There was one time in Cambodia where me and my mate were getting chased down the street by this guy. It was pretty scary, and my instant reaction, I don't know why, my instant reaction was to take everything out of my bag and put it in my bra just in case. I had like hotel keys in there, I had my credit card, I had my phone, everything, just shove it in the bra. Safety, place for keeping my treasure. Help you float on your back. I haven't tried that one yet, but I think I'm gonna. This survey has given me a lot of ideas to go away with. And this one, squirting milk out of, and I don't think that means squirting milk into the baby's mouth. I think it means using it as a bit of a weapon, like a spud gun. Squirting milk at passers-by. I have some funny friends. Obviously a huge part of sex. Dad, if you're watching, please turn it off. Uncles, please turn it off. Now, a few of the guys, their main focus was about them. What's the point in boobs? Well, titty wanks, motorboating. So having fun, foreplay, sex, sexual pleasure. This one is very insightful. Babies suck on them, but also sometimes adults too. I guess no matter how old we are, we'll always have that desire to suckle on them. Fair enough. I don't. I don't have a desire to suckle on them, but maybe that's something a little bit Freudian. I'm not going to go into that. Fun bags for my husband. I have boobs, so they can be fun bags for my husband. I love that. So sexual pleasure for the man and for the woman as well. Did you know that women can have an orgasm through their nipples? So maybe that's why women aren't allowed to have their nipples out. That's why they get censored on the tinternet, because they're sexy and they're part of sex and they're arousing. But did you know, fact number 2, that men can also have an orgasm through their nipples? So then why is a man allowed to have his nipples on tinternet? I found out recently that I can put a naked picture of my top up if I cover my nipples with something. So little stars, smiley faces, whatever it is. I could also get away with it by covering my nipples with man's nipples. So men's nipples are allowed on the internet, women's nipples, it is seen as nudity, indecent exposure. Although I also learned through this research that women are allowed to walk around topless in the UK. They apparently have the same rights as a man to lie in a park and sunbathe topless, but I really don't know how well that would go down. Quite interesting how many people could not think of 3. So I gave people the opportunity for 3 top answers, and here we go. Kristen, I actually can't think of 2. I don't have a 3rd. Fuck knows. It's one of those things that you don't think about. One of my mates went to the pub when I text her this, and she asked the whole pub. This is in Norfolk, so a lot of people know each other in Norfolk, rural Norfolk, in her pub. And loads of guys were like, why are you asking? This is ridiculous. We shouldn't need to answer this question. Do we know the reason? What's the purpose of having boobs? They were also like, we don't really care. I think if you lost boobs from society, you'd probably care. Really sadly, my survey also opened a can of worms for loads of my friends. So I will be offering one-to-one support, and I have been since sending out this, because a lot of people have issues with their boobs. Loads of my friends who have flat chests would say, oh, I've hated them my whole life, I wish I had a big bust. loads of my friends who have big busts say I'm trying to cover up and, you know, flatten them down so that people don't notice them because they make me feel really uncomfortable. So we kind of always want what we haven't got. A lot of my friends who run or do any kind of exercise say they really get in the way. They're actually a bit of an inconvenience, especially if those friends aren't breastfeeding or planning on having children. Then they're like, what is the point in these? They just cause me stress. One of my friends, she said she had no idea, and I said, okay, well, what would happen if you had a mastectomy? How would you feel, and what would be the first thing that you think of? And she was like, my boobs are so small that if I had a mastectomy, I don't think anyone would ever notice. They also caused us a little bit of stress when we were teenagers. Oh, I remember that awkward stage when we were having big boobs and we were trying to, again, like flatten them down on our chest to mortally embarrass me in my early preteens. So do we need them? Do we need boobies? If we're not breastfeeding, what is the point in them? This comment here actually really means a lot to me, and I don't know who it's from, but it said I could live without them. And that made me feel really positive. And if you think about all of the body parts that we have, all of the senses that we have and what our body functions for, in reality, the boobs probably are the thing that you can live without. And of course, it's going to have a massive impact on your identity, on the way you look. But as a function, we can live without them. And it's interesting because a lot of people say breastfeeding. A lot of people say boobs are all about breastfeeding. But in my position, if you ask me what I'm most upset about, it's not about that I'm never going to be able to breastfeed babies. It is about how I look. A lot of it is about the comfort that I get from my boobs, hugging people, giving them big booby hugs. And it is about identity and the way I look and feeling sexy and feeling womanly. That's the first thing. It's all about vanity. I suppose it would be a little bit different if I had children and I wasn't able to breastfeed them. Then I might feel a real loss around that. But for now, it's all about the titties and looking pretty with the titties. I hope you enjoyed my in-depth survey. Totally appreciate very small sample size. Everybody was cisgender. Not everybody heterosexual, so had views from different sexualities. I would love to do this study again, big style. Really take it to the streets and ask everybody, what the heck is the point in boobs?